welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I have a list here of all the melody instruments, the melody flutes that I've been teaching you about, and I'm going to read off this list first. I haven't shown you everything. I've brought some fifes and so forth today to show you, but here is a list of most of the instruments that we would consider to be melody flutes. All the different types of recorders. I've brought over colored ones and white ones, then translucent ones. I've had straight melody flutes, end-blown flutes, Peruvian and Caribbean flutes, wooden and Israeli flutes, penny whistles, sasutos, tonettes, song flutes, flutophones, ocarinas, melodicas, the Hall's crystal flutes, which you have not seen. I'm going to show you those today. The fifes and the regular flutes, and also the piccolos. Now that's quite a list. And as far as I'm concerned, they all can be classed as melody flutes. Now I've shown you many of the recorders, the flutophones, the song flutes, the tonettes, the translucents, and I've gone down quite a list. So today I thought I would bring some fifes to show you. The fifes are interesting because you blow across them, you don't blow into them. In a regular recorder, you blow into it. And I have a little one here. This is an LMI, and I use it occasionally. It's a nice one. It's not as nice as the Casios and so forth, but it is a nice one, and I use them frequently. And you can see that if you're blowing into it, your mouth stops the air from coming back because you're blowing in. But when you get to a fife, what you're doing is you're blowing across. Now that means that the air could go in both directions. Take a look at the mouthpiece of this fife. This is a wooden fife. I don't know how clear it's going to come in, but the mouthpiece is right below my finger. And if I turn it, this is just a plain wooden one. It plays in the key of C, and it plays quite well. So here it is, and the tone holds it down the front. There's a little variation in the size, which you would find in the recorders, in order to accommodate the size of your fingers. You know, not everybody's fingers are all the same size, and so there are some that are small and some that are large. The finger stretches are fairly large here, so that might be a problem for some people, and there's no tone hole in the back. But I've used this quite a bit. I like it. It really is a very nice little instrument. But as you can see, there's no mouthpiece on the top. There's no mouthpiece anywhere. So you have to blow across it. That's what you would do with the flutes, and that's what you do with the piccolo. So I want to show you something. I want to show you this chart here, this picture that I have. This picture is a picture of my piccolo. It's one of mine. It's a Gemeinhardt piccolo made in Germany. It's a very, very nice one. If you look at the mouthpiece here, and this is why I brought it in. I had so much to carry today, I decided not to bring it in. But it's built around the top. The mouthpiece has a little area here that it's built up. And then here's the hole where you blow across. You'll notice that there's a cap on the top. And the reason for that cap is so that the air won't go in both directions. If you're playing flutes, if you're playing like recorders or clarinets or saxophones or those kinds of instruments, the air's not going to go back anyway because your mouthpiece, your mouth blowing in acts as a block. If you were to blow and there's no way to close off where the air goes, all you would get the sound of air in a tube. You wouldn't get anything else but that. So you have to have a block. Now you don't see it in this instrument, but I can see it looking into it, that there's a piece of cork that sticks down in, and there's no way you can pick it up, but I do want to try to show you anyway. If I were to take my conductor's baton and go down, I could only go down a short way. That prevents the air from going in this direction. It forces it all in one direction, and that's what you have to have a tone. Now I have several of these fifes to show you. Here's one made out of PVC water pipe. It was done by a friend of mine. There was a man who somebody introduced me to him, and he wanted to come to my house and see all my instruments, because at that time I had quite a collection. Not as many as I have now, but I had quite a collection. I said, sure, okay. So we came, we had lunch together, he saw my instruments, and he presented this to me as a gift. And he said to thank me for allowing him in to see instruments because he loves them. And so I was happy to receive it. It's very hard to play, but it does play. It is in pitch. And if you want to spend enough time with it, then it's good. He said, take it traveling, take it to the beach. You can get sand in it, you can sit on it. Whatever happens, you're not going to kill it, because all you have to do is rinse it out. It's water pipe, And there would be a little block in here so that the air would only go in one direction. And here is the mouthpiece. Now, in most fifes, you're going to find that the mouthpieces are flat to the surface of the instrument. It's not built up. In the piccolos and in the flutes, it's all built up. And you put that, so you have extra protection there, and you put it under your lip. Here you put it under your lip, but it's not built up at all. And now the other thing you notice about most fifes is the fact that they have a round hole for a mouthpiece. Just a plain round hole. Most of the flutes they're a little oblong, but the fifes are just flat and round. So this is my water pipe one. This one was given to me by a friend. I think it was made in Massachusetts. It plays well. And here it is. It's just a plain hole. And there's a little thing on the top so the air can't go back up as you're blowing across it. It can only go down. No tone holes in the back, which is traditional for fifes. And if you put your hands on it, these are where your fingers would go. These are the tone holes. There's a little variation to accommodate the size of your fingers. That's a real good picture of it. And you see, as you look at the top, you see nothing. But down inside, there would be a piece of cork or something that would stop the air from going back out this direction. Because if you blow into a tube from across, that say I put a hole in a piece of pipe and I just blow into it, all you're going to get is air. But if I block it up on one side and squeeze the air out in one direction, then I can start getting tones out of it. So the fifes are all going to have something to block the air from coming back out, and all you have to do is blow across it and then finger, which means you're going to have to hold it like this. But this is the traditional way that you hold flutes and piccolos anyway. And this is a traditional way that you have to hold fifes. You don't blow into them. You have to hold them up and blow across. So there's one. Now this is a little kind of a flute. It is a fife because you blow in here. This mouthpiece can be taken off. It's for children who want to learn how to play flute. It has a tone hole in the back, and when you blow in, then you get the air across, but you see it's all closed. That forms a cap so the air can't go in another direction. It is quite playable, but it doesn't sound horribly good. But it is like a recorder in a way. It's got 2 tone holes for the last 2 keys. So, and some of the recorders have the 2 tone holes on the last 2 keys, so it's similar in a way to the recorder, but you do play across it, and it is considered to be a fife. 2 unusual ones I have here. This is a Hall's crystal flute. It's capped off. Now, it's made out of a Pyrex type of substance. I mean, it's not real glass, but it looks like it's real glass, and you can see right through it. There is a little hole, I hope you can catch it, right above my finger. That's the mouthpiece. It's just a little circle. And then right on top, of course, this is all capped off with glass, or whatever the substance is. I kid people, I said, you can do everything to it, but you can't drop it. So, let me hold it out. It's a Hall's crystal flute. I think they're still being made. They're all hand blown or handmade, and they're all painted by hand. So I don't know if you can catch this or not, but they're beautiful designs. There are different designs to choose from. These are flowers, very well done, very beautiful. So I'm going to just hold it here for a second for you to see. They have different sizes. I do have the piccolo. This is considered to be the flute. Now, there are longer flutes than this, and the longer flutes have a little deeper tone. So I think they have one that they consider to be an alto. Here we go. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm just going to turn it all the way around. All hand-painted. Every bit of it is hand-painted. It plays well. It pitches well. I have used it for solos before. And when the design is, some of the designs go down the tube and some don't. But notice the hole here so close to the top. But you're blowing across it, you're not blowing into it. So it's not like the end blown. On the end blown flutes, you have to put your mouth between a little bit over the mouthpiece and before you hit the labium on the end blown flutes. And they're tricky to play. This you just blow across. Now this is the Hals Crystal Piccolo. Just smaller. And if we can get a close-up of it's basically beautiful flowers. That's neat. You see how well done that is? And it goes down the flute. Whoops, it goes down the tube of the flute. And I want to have you notice the fact that the tone hole is right here, so close to the top that's all capped off. So therefore, you just blow across it. It also plays well, and I have used it before. I don't let anyone handle it. If they did drop it, I don't know if it would shatter or not. But at any rate, I know they handmade. The story behind Hals flutes, and he has a number of them like this, is that he wanted to play flute very badly. He loved flute. He loved hearing people play flute. He wanted to play flute, but his parents could not afford to buy him a flute. And so he decided, excuse me, that he was just going to make his own. And he came out with something like this, and it's become a business, and they are very beautiful. This is a slide whistle, and there are no tone holes anywhere. You put it in your mouth, and you just let that whistle go. Just draw it down. Now, in the inside, you remember I've told you so many times that the longer the tube, the lower the pitch. So this is, when you lengthen it, whatever device is in there to shorten and lengthen the tube, it will lengthen it by pulling it all the way out and shorten it by pulling it back. Now, this is an older one, and I don't know as it does as well. I'm just going to blow into it. The higher notes aren't quite as good. I've actually played songs on it, but you have to guess what the distance is between notes. Now, we've gone into, and I'm going to go into again, the distances between the notes, the intervals between the notes, and what that means. If you play an A, and then you play a D, it's a lot lower than the A because there's an interval between the notes. Well, you can play all the notes. You just have to guess how far you want to lengthen the tube to make the tone go lower. song called Hallelujah. It really is a song. Somebody actually wrote it. You can play fairly complicated songs if you can just judge your distances and the intervals right. So that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be doing. It's doing better than I thought it would. This is a very unusual instrument. It's Israeli. The Israeli instrument, and I didn't bring any water with me, which I guess I should have thought of, but here's your top part where the mouthpieces are, right here. But of course they keep falling out. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to soak them with water. It's bamboo, and the interesting thing is if you put them in water, you take them out and they still feel dry because they absorb it. And it makes them stick in, and if you look at this, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, there's a little flap. They both have them, a little flap right here, and that flap will move up and down as you're playing it. And you play both at the same time. You put both in your mouth at the same time. Whoops, there's a crack in it. Well, that's not good. I don't play it very often because it's just very technical, very hard to do it. But if you stick them in and they stay in, that's why they have them tied. You notice that the string here keeps them together so they're not rolling on the floor when they drop out. And then your tone holds down here. And it's according to the instruction, you put your right hand up and you put your left hand down. And you play it that way. You play both at the same time. I have been able to get tones out of it, but I've never mastered the art of actually playing. So this is a bamboo Israeli instrument. And it's a flute that they say, a kind of flute that the shepherds would use. The shepherds used one strip of bamboo, too. It wasn't always two, but this is one of them. So this is an interesting instrument. Let's see, I'm going to just kind of drape it here a little bit. This is Big Dave's fish collar. It's actually a kazoo. That's all it is. When you sing into a kazoo, it changes the way that your voice sounds, and it gives you whatever tone you're singing. But what they've done is they've added tubing to it, so it sounds a little different because you have what looks like an instrument. No tone holes, just your own voice. If you pulled it together, pulled it apart, you'd just have a regular kazoo. I thought it was interesting, so I bought it. Here's another little instrument. This little guy is probably the cheapest instrument I've ever bought. There's nothing to it. It'll even bend. I'm not going to bend it much. I don't want anything to happen to it, but it's bendable. It's just cheap. And it has tone holes, and it has a little labium. The labium sits right next to the mouthpiece. There's no block. There doesn't have to be. And it squeals a little. It's not going to play notes, but it'll squeal a little. Well, I guess it does play notes. You can't get the lowest. But you do get a few notes on it. It goes according to the same principle as any instrument does. That's a woodwind. You know, you blow the air in, it goes out the labium, and you have your finger holes, so you can get different pitches on it. I don't know. I've had it for years. I keep it as a teaching tool, and because I never throw an instrument away anyway. If it's mine, it's under my care, and it stays as a part of my collection. But it's interesting just to see it. Now, I think we don't have a whole lot of time left, so what I'm going to do is close it here, and the next time we come in, I'm going to show you the ocarinas. They're a very interesting kind of instrument. I'll give you a little bit of the history of them. They're very common. They've been around for years and years and years and years, and some of them are very beautiful. I have more inexpensive ones, but the ones that are very expensive have a gorgeous tone. So I'll close it here, and please join me next time.